My name is Mia Blake. I am 28 years old, and I live in the United States. I pulled into my driveway, absolutely exhausted. It had been a brutal 3 weeks away for work as a structural engineer. All I wanted was my own bed, a hot shower, and silence. But when my headlights hit the front lawn, I slammed on the brakes. My heart actually stopped in my chest. There was a sign stuck in the grass, a bright red sold sign. I thought I was hallucinating. I blinked, but it was still there. This was my house. My name was on the deed. I hadn't listed it. I hadn't spoken to a realtor. I left my car door open and ran to the front porch. My key didn't turn. The lock had been changed. I pounded on the wood until the door finally swung open. My stepfather, Richard, stood there holding a roll of packing tape. He didn't look guilty. He didn't look sorry. He just looked annoyed that I was interrupting him. "Richard," I choked out, my hands shaking. "What is going on? Why is there a sign on my lawn?" He shrugged, like he was explaining the weather to a child. "We sold it, Mia. A girl your age doesn't need a luxury home like this. It's too much for you." He smiled, and that's when my entire world collapsed. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Mia Blake. I am 28 years old. I stood in the doorway, unable to move. My feet felt heavy, like they were made of lead. I stared at Richard. He went back to taping up a box, my box. It was a cardboard box from the garage, and inside I could see my books. The books I studied to get my degree. The books that helped me become a structural engineer. He was tossing them in like they were garbage. "You can't sell my house," I said. My voice was quiet. It didn't sound like me. "It is in my name, Richard. Only my name." He didn't even look up. "We're family, Mia. What's yours is ours. And honestly, this place. It's too much work for a single woman. The lawn, the gutters, the taxes. I did you a favor." I looked around the living room. This wasn't just a building to me. This house was the only thing I had ever truly owned. It was the only place where I felt safe. "I need you to understand why this mattered so much. I need to explain who Richard is and who my mother became when she married him. My father died when I was very young. It was just me and my mom for a long time. We struggled. We moved apartments every year. I never had a bedroom that I could paint. I never had a yard. I promised myself when I was 10 years old that one day I would buy a house that no one could take away from me. I worked hard. I didn't go to parties in college. I studied engineering. I took extra shifts. I saved every single dollar. When I bought this house 3 years ago, I cried. I sat on the empty floor of the living room, and I cried because I finally had a key that belonged to me. Then there was Richard. My mother married him 10 years ago. Richard is a man who loves to hear himself speak. He is tall, loud, and thinks he is the smartest person in every room. From the day he moved in, he treated me like an employee he couldn't fire. He never respected my work. When I got my degree, he said, "Good for you, honey. Maybe you can find a rich husband now." When I got my first big promotion, he said, they probably needed to fill a diversity quota. He always made me feel small. He called it teasing. He said I was too sensitive. If I got angry, my mother would rush in. She would touch my arm and whisper, "Mia, please, don't start a fight. He loves you. He's just joking." So I learned to be quiet. I learned to take it. But this house was my escape. It was the one place Richard had no power. He didn't pay the mortgage. He didn't mow the lawn. He didn't pick the paint colors. It was mine. I remembered the day I closed on the house. Richard had laughed at me. "You're going to drown in debt," he had said. "You don't know anything about real estate. You're just a girl playing house." I proved him wrong. I paid my bills early. I fixed the roof myself. I built the deck in the backyard with my own hands. Every nail in this house represented my freedom from him. And now, he was standing in my living room, taping up my life, telling me he had sold it. "Richard," I said, stepping fully into the room. "Put the tape down," he chuckled. It was a dry, scratching sound. "Don't be dramatic, Mia, it's done. The new owners move in next week. You have to be out by Sunday." "Sunday?" I screamed. The sound tore out of my throat. "I live here. Where am I supposed to go?" "Your mother and I discussed it," he said calmly. "You can get a nice apartment downtown, something smaller, more manageable. You're always working anyway. Why do you need 3 bedrooms?" He walked past me to grab another stack of my books. He brushed against my shoulder, and I felt a wave of physical sickness. He acted like he was the adult, and I was a tantrum-throwing child. "I am not leaving," I said. "You don't have a choice," he replied. "The papers are signed, the money has been transferred, it's a done deal." I felt the room spin. What money? I asked. If you sold it, where is the money? He paused. For the first time, he looked a little shifty. He adjusted his collar. We'll talk about finances later. Right now, we need to pack. I looked at the walls. I had painted them a soft gray last summer. I looked at the fireplace. I had cleaned the chimney myself. I looked at the floorboards. I knew which one creaked near the window. This house was my stability. It was the proof that I was a capable adult. It was the proof that I didn't need him. Richard always hated that I didn't need him. He wanted to be the provider, the man of the house, but he was terrible with money. He was always chasing investment opportunities that failed. He borrowed money from my mother constantly. He drove a leased car he couldn't afford. He hated that his stepdaughter, the structural engineer, had more equity than he did. You did this to hurt me, I whispered. I did this to help the family, he snapped. You're so selfish, Mia. Always thinking about yourself. My house, my degree, my job. We are a family, we share. We don't share my name on a deed, I yelled. It's just a house, he said, waving his hand dismissively. Bricks and wood. You can buy another one someday, maybe when you actually settle down and get married. The insult landed perfectly. He knew I was single. He knew I focused on my career. He used it as a weapon to say I wasn't a real woman yet. I looked at the box of books. He had bent the cover of my favorite engineering manual. It seemed like a small thing, but it broke me. He didn't care about my things. He didn't care about my hard work. He only saw dollar signs. I realized then that this wasn't just about the house. This was about control. For 10 years, I had built a life outside of his control. I had become successful. I had become independent. And he couldn't stand it. So he waited until I was gone. He waited until I was 3 states away, working 12-hour days on a bridge inspection. He waited until I was too busy to check my mail or answer my phone. And then he stole my life. I felt a coldness spread through my chest. It started in my stomach and moved up to my throat. It wasn't just anger. Anger is hot. This was different. This was ice. Get out, I said. Excuse me, he laughed. Get out of my house, I said, right now. I'm helping you pack, he said, mocking me. You should be thanking me. I am going to call the police, I said. He froze. He looked at me, studying my face. He was looking for the little girl who used to cry when he yelled. He was looking for the teenager who backed down to keep the peace. He didn't find her. You wouldn't dare, he said. Think about your mother. This would kill her. Where is Mom? I asked. She's already at the airport, he said, checking his watch. She's waiting for me. We have a flight to catch tonight. A flight? Italy, he said, a smug grin returning to his face. We've always wanted to go, first class, 5-star hotels, a real second honeymoon. The pieces clicked together. My stomach dropped. You sold my house to go on vacation. To fund our retirement, he corrected. And yes, to enjoy life a little. We raised you. We sacrificed for you. It's our turn. I looked at this man. He was wearing a polo shirt that cost more than my weekly grocery bill. He had a gold watch on his wrist. And he had just sold my sanctuary to pay for a trip to Italy. Get out, I repeated. He rolled his eyes. Fine, I have to get to the airport anyway. The movers are coming tomorrow at 8 a.m. Be ready. He dropped the roll of tape on the table. It made a loud thud. He walked past me, bumping my shoulder again intentionally. He walked out the front door and didn't even close it behind him. I stood alone in the hallway. The wind blew through the open door. I heard his car start up and drive away. I was alone. My house was sold. My things were in boxes. And the only family I had was flying to Europe with my money. I didn't pack. I didn't sleep. I sat on my kitchen floor for 4 hours staring at the wall. My phone was in my hand. I had called my mother 12 times. It went straight to voicemail every time. She had turned her phone off. She knew. She knew exactly what was happening, and she chose to ignore me. Finally, at 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was a text from her. Mia, honey, Richard told me you're upset. Please don't be dramatic. We are about to take off. Let's talk when we get back in a month. This is for the best. We love you. I stared at the screen. Don't be dramatic. It's for the best. I hit the call button again. This time it rang. She must have turned it on to check a message. Hello? Her voice sounded tinny and distant. I could hear airport announcements in the background. Mom, I said. My voice was raspy. Mom, tell me you didn't know. There was a pause, a long, heavy silence. Mia, she sighed. You have to understand. Richard has been under a lot of stress. We needed this. The business isn't doing well. The business? I asked. Richard's consulting business. Mom, that's not my problem. You sold my house. It's family money, sweetheart, she said. Her voice took on that pleading tone she always used when she was defending him. We are a unit. When one of us succeeds, we all succeed. When one needs help, we all help. I didn't agree to help, I shouted. I didn't agree to sell my home. I was at work. I was 3,000 miles away. Lower your voice, she hissed. People are staring. I don't care, I was crying now, hot tears running down my face. How could you do this? I built this, me, not Richard, not you. You're being selfish, she said coldly. We raised you. We paid for your braces. We paid for your clothes. I paid for college, I shot back. I paid for my car. I paid for this house. I have supported myself since I was 18 because Richard wouldn't give me a dime. Richard loves you, she said robotically. He just wants what's best. He said the market is crashing. He said if we didn't sell now, you'd lose everything. He saved you, Mia. He lied to you, I said. The market is fine. He wanted the cash. Well, it's done, she said. The papers are signed. I didn't sign them, I screamed. Richard handled it, she said. He has power of attorney or something. I don't know the details, Mia. I'm not a lawyer. Stop trying to ruin this for me. This is my dream trip. Can't you just be happy for me, just once? I felt like I had been slapped. Happy for her. She was flying to Italy using the equity from my home, leaving me homeless, and she wanted me to be happy for her. Mom, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper, if you get on that plane, don't come back to me. Do not call me. Oh, stop it, she said. You're just emotional because you're tired. Go to sleep. We'll bring you a nice leather bag from Florence. I'm serious, I said. This is it. This is the end. Flight 809 to Rome is now boarding, a voice said over the speaker in the background. I have to go, she said. I love you. Bye. The line went dead. I sat there in the silence of my kitchen. I looked around. This was the kitchen where I learned to cook pasta. This was the kitchen where I drank coffee every morning and watched the sun come up over the garden I planted. They took it like it was nothing. I stood up. I felt shaky. I needed to see the damage. I walked into the home office. Richard had been organizing in there too. My filing cabinet was open. Papers were everywhere. I started looking for the sale documents. If the house was sold, there had to be paperwork. Richard was sloppy. He was arrogant, which meant he made mistakes. I found a folder on the desk labeled House Sale. I opened it. There were the closing documents, the deed transfer, the bank payoff. I looked at the price. He had sold it for $650,000. I owed $150,000 on the mortgage. That meant there was $500,000 in equity, $500,000. I flipped to the disbursement page. The money hadn't gone to my account. It had been wired to a joint account. Richard and Linda Davis. My hands shook so hard I dropped the paper. He had stolen $500,000 from me. I looked at the date on the sale. It closed 3 days ago. 3 days ago, while I was inspecting a bridge in the rain, Richard was signing my name and taking my life savings. I needed to leave. I couldn't stay here. It felt like a crime scene. I grabbed my purse. I grabbed the folder of documents. I grabbed a few changes of clothes and shoved them into a duffel bag. I didn't take the boxes Richard had packed. I didn't take the furniture. I just took what I could carry. I walked out the front door. I looked at the sold sign one last time. I wanted to kick it over, but I didn't. I didn't want to give the neighbors anything to talk about. I got in my car and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove until the house was far behind me. I pulled into a motel parking lot on the edge of town. It was a cheap place with flickering neon lights. It was a long way down from my beautiful 3-bedroom house. I checked in. The room smelled like stale cigarettes and lemon cleaner. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened the folder again. I stared at the signature line on the deed, Mia Blake. It looked like my handwriting. It had the same loop on the M, the same slant. If you didn't know me, you would think I signed it. But I knew I was 500 miles away on that day. He had practiced. He had practiced forging my signature until he got it right. This wasn't an impulsive decision. This wasn't a mistake. This was a plan. He had been planning this for months. He probably started planning it the moment I left for my work trip. I felt a surge of nausea. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. I washed my face in the sink. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red. My skin was pale. I looked like a victim. Richard wanted me to be a victim. He wanted me to be the little girl who cried and needed her mommy. He wanted me to be broken so he could feel big. I wiped my face with a rough towel. No, I said to the mirror. I walked back into the room. I picked up my phone. I wasn't going to call my mom again. I wasn't going to call Richard. I searched for a name in my contacts. Sam Reynolds. He was an old friend from college. He went to law school while I studied engineering. We hadn't talked in a year, but I knew he was a real estate attorney now. It was 3 a.m. I texted him. I need help. It's an emergency. Please call me as soon as you wake up. I lay down on the lumpy motel bed. I didn't sleep. I watched the ceiling fans spin, round and round, just like my thoughts. They thought they had won. They thought they were jetting off to Italy to live the good life on my money. They thought I would just roll over and take it because family is family. But they forgot one thing. I am a structural engineer. My job is to find cracks. My job is to find the weak points in a structure and expose them before the whole thing comes down. Richard had built a lie, and I was going to find the crack that would bring the whole thing crashing down on his head. The next morning the sun was too bright. It hurt my eyes. I drank terrible motel coffee and waited for Sam to call. He called at 7:15 a.m. Mia, is everything okay? His voice was thick with sleep but worried. No, I said. Sam, I need to see you today right now. I have a meeting at 9 but Richard sold my house, I interrupted. He sold my house while I was away. He forged my signature. He took all the money and went to Italy. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Come to my office, Sam said. His voice was completely different now. Sharp, professional. 8 o'clock. Bring everything you have. I arrived at his office at 7:50. Sam looked older than I remembered. He had glasses now, and he wore a suit that fit him perfectly. He ushered me into a conference room and closed the door. I put the folder on the table. This is what I found. Sam opened it. He didn't speak. He just flipped through the pages. His eyes scanned the text rapidly. He stopped at the signature page. He looked at it, then looked at a document I had signed for him years ago, a waiver for a ski trip we took. He compared the signatures. It's good, Sam said quietly. It's a very good forgery. But it's not perfect. I was in Ohio, I said. I have hotel receipts. I have work logs. I have witnesses. I was physically not in the state when this was signed. Sam nodded. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. Mia, he said. Do you understand what this is? He stole my house, I said. It's more than that, Sam said. He leaned forward. This is mortgage fraud. This is wire fraud. This is grand larceny. This is forgery. These aren't just civil disputes. These are felonies. If we pursue this, Richard isn't just going to have to pay you back. He is going to prison. I stared at him. Prison? I thought about Richard. I thought about his smug smile. I thought about him throwing my books into a box. I thought about him calling me selfish. He took everything, I said. He left me with nothing. I know, Sam said, but I need to be sure. If we file this, the police get involved. The FBI might get involved because of the wire transfer. It will destroy your mother's life too. She's married to him. Her assets will be frozen. She might be investigated as an accomplice. My mother. I thought about her voice on the phone. Don't be dramatic. We deserve this. She knew. Maybe she didn't know the legal details, but she knew he was selling my house and taking the money. And she didn't stop him. She got on the plane. She chose the trip to Italy over her own daughter. She made her choice, I said. My voice was steady. Do it, Sam nodded. Okay, first step, we file a lease pendens on the house. That stops the sale from being finalized, or if it is finalized, it warns the new buyers that the ownership is in dispute. We cloud the title. Then, we file a police report. Can we get the money back? I asked. If they spend it, it's harder, Sam said. But we can freeze his other assets. We can put a lien on everything he owns. We can make sure he can't buy a stick of gum without us knowing. Do it, I said again. We spent the next 3 hours drafting affidavits. I had to relive every moment. I had to write down exactly what Richard said. I had to print out my work schedule. I had to provide my bank statements showing the money never arrived. By noon, my head was pounding. There's something else, Sam said. He was looking at Richard's financial background on his computer. I did a quick search on Richard, public records. And he has 3 liens against him from previous business partners. He was sued 2 years ago for breach of contract. Mia, this guy is broke. On paper, he has almost nothing. He acts rich, I said. He lives on credit, Sam said. He's drowning, that's why he sold your house. He needed the cash to pay off debts, or maybe he's just running. The trip to Italy, it might not be a vacation, it might be an escape. A chill went down my spine. You think he's not coming back? I think a man who commits a felony to get $500,000 isn't planning on sticking around to face the consequences, Sam said. He's running, I whispered. He's using my money to run away. We need to move fast, Sam said. I'm calling a friend of mine at the district attorney's office. We need to get a warrant. I walked out of Sam's office feeling different. When I walked in, I was a victim. I was a girl who lost her house. Now I was a witness. I was the accuser. I got in my car. I had to go back to work. I couldn't just stop living. I drove to the engineering firm. I walked in wearing the same clothes as yesterday. My boss, David, looked at me. Mia, are you okay? I'm fine, I said. I just need to focus on work. I sat at my desk. I stared at the blueprints for a new parking garage. Lines, angles, loads, stress points. My life was a structure that had collapsed, but I knew how to build, and I knew how to demolish. Richard thought he was the wrecking ball. He was wrong. I picked up my pen. My hand wasn't shaking anymore. The next few days were a blur of humiliation. In a small town, you can't keep secrets. The sold sign was on my lawn. The movers had come and gone. Richard had hired them to put my stuff in storage. Thank God he didn't throw it away, but he didn't tell me where it was. I was living in the motel. I had to buy new underwear at Walmart. People started to talk. I ran into Vanessa at the grocery store. Vanessa dated my high school boyfriend. She never liked me. She always thought I was stuck up because I cared about school. Mia, she called out, waving from the produce aisle. I heard the news. I froze. I was holding a basket with a loaf of bread and peanut butter. What news? About your house, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I saw the sign. Richard told my mom you guys had to sell because you couldn't afford the payments. That is so sad. My face burned. That's not what happened, I said. Oh, it's okay, she said, touching my arm with fake sympathy. It's hard being a single woman in this economy. My husband and I were just saying, it was really ambitious of you to try to own a place like that on one income. It's better this way. You can find a nice apartment. I didn't sell it because I'm broke, Vanessa, I said, my teeth clenched. Sure, she said, winking. Whatever you say. Hey, I saw your mom's photos on Instagram. Italy looks amazing. At least they're having fun, right? She walked away, smirking. I pulled out my phone. I hadn't looked at social media. I opened Instagram. There it was, my mother's account. A photo of her and Richard holding wine glasses in front of the Colosseum. Caption, La Dolce Vita, finally living the dream with my love. Number Italy, number blessed, number retirement, another photo. Richard in a tailored suit, eating a massive steak. Caption, treating ourselves, we deserve it. I looked at the comments. So happy for you guys. Looks expensive, enjoy. Love seeing you so happy. They were spending my money. They were eating my house. They were drinking my savings, and everyone was cheering for them. I felt a scream building in my chest, but I swallowed it. My uncle David called me that night. David is Richard's brother, but he hates Richard. He's an accountant. He's quiet, serious, and honest. Mia, he said, I heard. Did you know? I asked. No, David said. I didn't know he would go this far, but I knew he was in trouble. He came to me 2 months ago asking for a loan. I told him no. He sold my house, David. I know, he said. Sam called me. He needs my help to trace the assets to prove the fraud. Will you help me? I asked. He's your brother. He's a thief, David said bluntly. He stole from family. In my book, that makes him a stranger. I'm coming to Sam's office tomorrow. We're going to dig through every tax return, every bank statement I can find. We're going to bury him. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me, David said. Just promise me one thing. What? Don't let them see you bleed, he said. Richard gets off on power. If he knows you're hurting, he wins. If he knows you're angry, he wins. Go quiet. Let him think he got away with it. Let him relax. That's when he'll make a mistake. I hung up. I looked around the motel room. It was messy. My clothes were in a pile. Don't let them see you bleed. I stood up. I folded my clothes. I made the bed. I threw away the trash. I went to work the next day and I didn't say a word about the house. When people asked, I just smiled and said, it's a transition period. I stopped checking my mother's Instagram. I stopped texting them. I went dark. Sam and David were working in the background. They were the sharks circling in the water. I was the bait. I waited. A week later, I got a text from Richard. Hey kiddo, hope you're settled in. The pasta here is incredible. Your mom bought a leather jacket. We're thinking of extending the trip another 2 weeks. Italy suits us. Talk soon. He was testing me. He wanted a reaction. He wanted me to scream at him so he could tell my mother I was being hysterical. I didn't reply. I sat in my car outside the police station. I had just met with a detective. He had the file. He had the forged documents. He had the bank records showing the transfer. "We have enough," the detective had said. "We're issuing a warrant." I looked at Richard's text again, thinking of extending the trip. "Enjoy it, Richard. Enjoy the pasta. Enjoy the wine. Because when you land, I'm going to be waiting. And I'm not going to be the little girl you remember." I put the car in drive. The pressure was gone. The fear was gone. Now there was only the plan. We turned Sam's conference room into a war room. It smelled like takeout coffee and printer toner. For 3 weeks, this room was my life. I went to work during the day. I inspected bridges. I checked load-bearing walls. And at 5 p.m., I drove straight to Sam's office. My Uncle David was usually already there. He had set up his laptop and 3 different monitors. David was a forensic accountant. He was the kind of man who wore beige cardigans and spoke in a monotone voice, but when he looked at a spreadsheet, he was a predator. He could smell a lie in a column of numbers from a mile away. "Richard isn't just a thief," David said on the 3rd night. "He is stupid." "What did you find?" I asked. I was eating a cold sandwich, staring at a timeline we had drawn on the whiteboard. "He moved the money from your house sale into a joint account," David explained, pointing to a highlighted line on the screen. "That's the $480,000 net proceeds. But look here. 2 days later, he transferred $200,000 of it to an LLC called Blue Horizon Consulting." "What is Blue Horizon Consulting?" I asked. "It's a shell company," Sam said from the corner. I pulled the registration. "It's registered to a P.O. box in Delaware, but the signing officer, Richard Davis. He's paying himself," I realized. "Exactly," David said. "He's trying to wash the money. He moves it to the LLC, claims it as business income, and then spends it. But he made a mistake. He used the same IP address to access both bank accounts. And he used your mother's maiden name as the security answer." We kept digging. It was like pulling a loose thread on a cheap sweater. The more we pulled, the more the whole thing unraveled. We found that Richard hadn't filed taxes in 3 years. We found that he had taken out a business loan for $50,000 in my mother's name without her knowing, forging her signature just like he forged mine. We found that he had a storage unit across town paid for in cash. "We need to know what's in that storage unit," Sam said. "I can't legally break in," I said. "No," Sam smiled. "But the unit is in your mother's name. Technically, as her daughter if you have a key. I don't have a key." "But," David interrupted, "Richard is currently in Italy, and he missed the payment on the unit yesterday. I saw the late fee hit the account." I drove to the storage facility. I told the manager I was there to pay my mother's bill. I paid the $140 owed. The manager, a nice older guy, thanked me. "Do you need to put anything in?" he asked. "Actually, I think she left some of my winter clothes in there," I lied, "but I don't have the code." "Oh, no problem," he said. He typed something into his computer. "Unit 404. Code is 1-9-80. My birth year. Richard used my birth year as the code to hide his secrets. The irony made me want to laugh. I opened the unit. It wasn't full of clothes. It was full of files, boxes and boxes of files, and in the corner a safe. I didn't touch the safe. I called Sam. "Get a subpoena," I said. I found the paper trail. For the next week, we built the trap. Sam worked with the district attorney. They loved it. It wasn't just a domestic dispute anymore. It was a pattern of fraud. It was criminal. The detective, a man named Miller, was impressed. "You guys did my job for me," he said. "This is a slam dunk. We have forgery, wire fraud, identity theft, and tax evasion." "When do we arrest him?" I asked. "When he lands," Miller said. "We don't want to spook him while he's overseas. We want him to come back, thinking he got away with it. We want him comfortable." So I waited. I continued to go to work. I continued to live in the motel. I saved every receipt. Every night, I checked my bank account, watching the balance of my emergency fund dwindle. I felt cold. I used to be an emotional person. I used to cry at sad movies. I used to get anxious if I thought someone was mad at me. But that part of me was gone. Richard had killed it. Now I was just a machine. I was an engineer. I was calculating the load. I was checking the structural integrity. And I was preparing for the demolition. My mother texted me one more time. "Mia, we are coming home on Tuesday. Please come to dinner. We need to mend fences." Richard is willing to forgive your outburst if you apologize. I stared at the screen. Richard is willing to forgive me. I typed back, okay, see you Tuesday. I wasn't lying, I would see them Tuesday, but we wouldn't be eating dinner. I called Sam. They land Tuesday, 4 p.m. We're ready, Sam said. I hung up. I looked at myself in the motel mirror. I looked tired, but I looked strong. Welcome home, Richard, I whispered. Tuesday came. It was raining. A gray, miserable rain that soaked everything. I took the day off work. I sat in my car in the short-term parking lot at the airport. I wasn't there to pick them up. I was there to watch. I knew their flight number. I tracked it on my phone. Landed. I knew it would take them 40 minutes to get through customs and get their bags. I visualized what was happening inside the terminal. Richard would be walking with his chest out, feeling like a king. He had just spent a month in Italy spending my money. He probably had a tan. He probably bought a new suit. My mother would be rushing to keep up with him, carrying the bags, because Richard didn't carry bags. They would walk to the currency exchange booth. Richard always liked to change his cash immediately, or maybe they would go to the coffee shop. I waited. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from the credit monitoring service I had set up on my mother's name. Sam had helped me get legal access since her identity was compromised by the fraud. Alert. Transaction declined. Starbucks, Terminal 4. It had begun. Sam had filed the court orders at 9 a.m. that morning. Every account with Richard's name on it was frozen. The joint accounts, the business accounts, even the credit cards. I could imagine the scene. Richard handing over his platinum card, the barista trying it. The little beep, declined. Richard would laugh. He would say, try it again, it's a platinum card. She would try it again. Declined. He would get angry. He would pull out another card. Declined. He would pull out his debit card. Declined. I sat in my car, listening to the rain hit the roof. It was the most beautiful sound in the world. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was my mother. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Richard was calling. I let it go to voicemail. They were stuck. They had no cash. Their cards didn't work. They couldn't even pay for a taxi to get home. And they didn't have a home to go to. They had sold my house, thinking they could stay in a hotel or rent a luxury condo. But you can't rent a condo with a frozen bank account. I watched the exit doors of the terminal. Finally, I saw them. They looked small. From a distance, they just looked like two middle-aged people arguing in the rain. Richard was waving his arms. My mother was crying. She was holding her phone, frantically tapping on it. They were waiting for an Uber, but the app wouldn't work because the card linked to it was frozen. I rolled down my window just a crack. The air was cold. I watched Richard kick his suitcase. He looked around, panicked. He was looking for someone to blame. He was yelling at my mother. I could see his mouth moving. Call her again. He wanted her to call me. He wanted me to come save them. He wanted me to use my little engineer salary to pay for his cab. I put my car in reverse. I didn't go pick them up. I didn't wave. I backed out of the parking spot and drove toward the exit. As I paid the parking fee with my own valid working debit card, I saw a police cruiser speed past me toward the terminal. Then another. Then a third. The detective hadn't waited for them to get home. He knew they were flight risks. He knew Richard had connections in Europe. I pulled over to the side of the access road. I had a clear view of the pickup curb. The police cars stopped in front of Richard and my mother. I saw the officers get out. I saw them approach Richard. I saw Richard step back. He tried to puff out his chest. He tried to use his "I'm a rich white man" voice. I could tell by his posture. He was pointing at his watch. He was probably saying, "Do you know who I am?" The officer didn't care who he was. He grabbed Richard's arm. Richard pulled away. That was a mistake. Two officers tackled him. They pushed him against the hood of the police car. My mother screamed. I could see her hands fly up to her mouth. She dropped her purse. They cuffed him. They put him in the back of the car. My mother was standing there, alone in the rain, next to 4 suitcases. An officer was talking to her. She looked lost. She looked like a child. I watched for another minute. Then I drove away. My phone rang again. It was my mother. This time I answered. "Mia," she was sobbing. She was hysterical. "Mia, you have to come. The police took Richard. They took him. They said it's fraud. They said, 'Oh God, Mia,' they said he stole money." "I know," I said. My voice was calm. There was silence on the other end. The sobbing stopped for a second. You knew." "I called them, Mom," I said. "What?" "I called them," I repeated. "I reported the fraud. I gave them the evidence." "How could you?" she screamed. He's your father, well, your stepfather, he loves us, this is a mistake. He forged my signature, Mom, he sold my house. He stole $500,000 from me. That's not love, that's a felony. But he was going to pay it back, she pleaded. He told me he had a deal coming through. He lied, I said. There is no deal. There is only prison. Mia, please, she begged. I'm at the airport, I have no money, my cards aren't working. Come get me, please. I gripped the steering wheel. This was the hardest part. She was my mother. She had raised me. But she had also watched him sell my house and done nothing. She had gone to Italy. She had told me not to be dramatic. I can't come get you, Mom, I said. What, why? Because I'm at work, I lied. And I don't have a car big enough for all your luggage. You should call a taxi. Oh wait, you can't. Mia, call Uncle David, I said. Maybe he'll help you, but I doubt it. Mia, don't do this. You left me, I said. You got on a plane and left me homeless. Now you know how it feels. I hung up the phone. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel happy. I felt sick. My stomach hurt. But I also felt clean. For the first time in 10 years, I wasn't carrying their weight. I wasn't fixing their mess. I drove back to the motel. I took a hot shower. I washed the airport grime off my skin. I sat on the bed and turned on the local news. An hour later, there it was, a breaking news banner. Local businessman arrested at airport in major real estate fraud scheme. They showed a picture of Richard. It was his LinkedIn profile picture. He was smiling, looking confident. Then they cut to footage from the airport. Someone had filmed it on their phone. It showed Richard being shoved into the police car, looking wet, disheveled, and terrified. I watched it 3 times. Justice is a strange thing. It doesn't fix the past. It doesn't give me my house back instantly, but it stops the bleeding. Richard was in a cell. He couldn't hurt me anymore. The next few weeks were a legal hurricane. Uncle David was right. Once Richard was in custody, everything fell apart. Sam represented me. He was brilliant. He filed a motion to overturn the sale of my house immediately. Because the deed was signed with a forgery, the sale was void ab initio, invalid from the start. The poor family who had bought it, a nice couple with a baby, were devastated. They had to move out. I felt terrible for them. I really did. But it was my house. Richard had sold them stolen property. Their title insurance company had to reimburse them, and they sued Richard's estate too. Richard was denied bail. The judge looked at the evidence, the flight to Italy, the offshore accounts, the forged documents, and declared him a massive flight risk. Mr. Davis, the judge said in the arraignment hearing, you have demonstrated a profound lack of respect for the law and for your own family. I was there in the courtroom. I sat in the back row. Richard walked in wearing an orange jumpsuit. He looked 10 years older. His tan had faded. His hair was gray and messy because he couldn't dye it in jail. He looked small. He scanned the room. He saw my mother sitting in the front row, crying. Then he saw me. His eyes locked on mine. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked desperate. He mouthed the word, please. I looked at him. I kept my face completely blank. I didn't smile. I didn't frown. I just witnessed him. I remembered him throwing my books in the box. I remembered him calling me selfish. I remembered him laughing when I asked for my key. I turned my head and looked at the judge. My mother was a different story. She wasn't charged. The police determined she was willfully ignorant but not an active participant in the fraud. She didn't sign the papers. She just believed his lies. But she was broke. The government seized everything Richard owned to pay back the debts and the stolen money. They took his car. They took his investments. My mother came to see me at the motel. I was still staying there while the legal process on the house was finalized. She knocked on the door. She looked terrible. She was wearing old clothes. She looked like the woman she was before she met Richard, tired, worn out, struggling. Mia, she said, I let her in. I didn't offer her a seat. I filed for divorce, she said quietly. Sam helped me finding a lawyer. Good, I said. I didn't know, Mia. You have to believe me. I didn't know he forged your name. He told me you signed it. He told me you agreed to it, but you were just being difficult about the move. And you believed him, I said. You believed that I would sell my dream home, the home I built to fund your vacation. Does that sound like me? She looked down at her hands. I wanted to believe him. He promised me a good life. He promised me I wouldn't have to worry about money anymore. So you let him sacrifice me, I said. You let him eat your young to feed himself. I'm sorry, she wept. I am so sorry. I'm staying with your aunt right now. I have nothing. The accounts are frozen. I have to get a job. You should get a job, I said. Work is good for you. Can I come stay with you when you get the house back? The question hung in the air. This was the moment, the pivot point. The old Mia would have said yes. The old Mia would have wanted to take care of her mommy. The old Mia would have wanted to fix it. But I looked at this woman. I loved her, but I couldn't trust her. She had chosen a man over her daughter. She had watched me bleed and told me to be quiet. No, I said. She looked shocked. What? No, I repeated. You can't live with me. I need my space. I need to heal, and I can't heal if you are there reminding me of him. But I'm your mother. And I'm your daughter, I said. And you left me. You can visit. We can get coffee, but you cannot live in my house. She cried, she begged, but I stood firm. You need to learn to stand on your own 2 feet, Mom, I said. Just like I did. She left. I closed the door, I locked it. I sat on the bed and took a deep breath. It hurt. It hurt like hell. But it was a clean pain. It was the pain of a bone setting correctly, instead of the pain of a broken limb that never heals. 2 days later, Sam called me. Good news, he said. The title is cleared. The judge signed the order. The house is yours again. You can move back in tomorrow. I drove to the house. The sold sign was gone. The lawn was overgrown. The windows were dirty. I walked up the steps. I put my key in the lock. It turned. I pushed the door open. It was empty. My furniture was still in storage. The house echoed. I walked to the center of the living room. I lay down on the floor. I looked up at the ceiling. It was mine. Richard was in a cell. My mother was at her sister's house. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. I had defended my territory. I had fought off the invaders. I closed my eyes and fell asleep right there on the floor 6 months later. The criminal trial was short. Richard pleaded guilty. He took a plea deal to avoid a 20-year sentence. He got 8 years in federal prison for wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. I didn't go to the sentencing. I didn't need to see it. Uncle David went. He told me Richard cried when the gavel banged. I got my money back. Well, most of it. The court ordered restitution. They liquidated Richard's remaining assets. It took time, but the equity was restored. But I made a decision. I didn't want the house anymore. I tried to live there for a few weeks. But every time I walked into the kitchen, I saw Richard packing my books. Every time I looked at the driveway, I saw the sold sign. The house was tainted. It wasn't my sanctuary anymore. It was a crime scene, so I sold it. I sold it on my own terms. I hired a realtor I liked. I staged it. I got a great price. The market had gone up. I took that money plus the restitution money and I bought a piece of land. 10 acres just outside the city. It has a creek. It has big oak trees. It has silence. I designed a new house. I'm a structural engineer, after all. I built it from the ground up. I poured the foundation myself. I framed the walls. This house has steel beams. It has reinforced concrete. It is built to withstand a hurricane. It is built to withstand anything. I have a guest room, but it's mostly for Uncle David when he comes to visit. He comes over on Sundays to watch football. We don't talk about Richard. We just eat nachos and yell at the TV. My mother is working as a receptionist at a dental office. She lives in a small apartment. We talk once a week. It's polite. She is trying. She apologizes a lot. I accept her apologies, but I don't open the door all the way. Trust is like a mirror. Once it's broken, you can glue it back together, but you can still see the cracks. I see the cracks. And that's okay. I am dating again. A nice guy named Mark. He's a landscape architect. He knows about my past. He knows I have trust issues. He's patient. He doesn't try to control me. He doesn't ask for money. Last week, we were sitting on the back porch of my new house. The sun was setting. The sky was purple and gold. You built a fortress, Mark said, looking at the thick stone walls of my house. I built a home, I corrected him. It feels solid, he said. That's the point, I said. I sipped my tea. I thought about the girl I was a year ago. The girl who was afraid of her stepfather. The girl who let herself be bullied. She was gone. In her place was a woman who knew exactly what she was worth. A woman who knew that family isn't just blood. Family is the people who stand by you when the house is burning down, not the ones who light the match. I am not a victim. I was targeted. I was attacked. I was betrayed. But I won Mia. Richard stole my house. He stole my safety. He tried to steal my future. He thought I was weak. He thought that because I was a woman, because I was quiet, because I was family, I would just roll over and take it. He was wrong. I didn't scream. I didn't fight him with fists. I fought him with paper. I fought him with facts. I dismantled his entire life, one bank statement at a time. There are people out there who think they are entitled to your hard work. They might be your friends. They might be your partners. They might even be your parents. They will tell you that you owe them. They will call you selfish for wanting to keep what you earned. Don't listen to them. Your life belongs to you. Your peace belongs to you. And if someone tries to take it, you have every right to burn their world down to get it back. I'm Mia Blake. I'm a structural engineer. And I'm still standing. If you have ever had to fight for what is yours, if you have ever had to stand up to someone who was supposed to love you, you are not alone. Hit that subscribe button, stay strong, and never ever sign a document without reading it first.